So I like to write. I like it a lot. Because if you consider the fact that anything that keeps your attention for longer than 1 minute is a meditation, it's a form of meditation. I have found that writing does it to me. It keeps me focused, and then after a while, it's this like via, or I build a link with divine intelligence, and all of a sudden I'm writing things that I could never come up with on my own. They're just like direct communication, right? So the other day I was writing about being grateful, because when problems happen in your life, or let's just say you're going through a tough time, first of all, anything that is happening to you is the byproduct of anything that you thought days before that. So that we're all a product of our own thoughts. The now is built on thoughts of the past, thoughts and feelings. So having a tough time, the first thing that you're told, or the first thing that people suggest that you do, is that to write a thank you list, some things that you're grateful about, and that changes your mood like that. And I think that is basically the vehicle, or how I link up with divine intelligence. So I was writing about being thankful, and I started to realize, wait a second, no wonder I have such a hard time with this topic of being grateful, because I never learned it. Like in my family, it wasn't a thing. See, that's what happens when you grow up with narcissists. Narcissistic people that they teach you to serve them. Basically, that's their main concern. There's like me. I want my needs met, and all you have to be in for me if you love me. Basically that's how they get you. It's like they use the love that you feel for them, and they get you with the love. They get you. They see it as a rope that they tie you with. And all of a sudden you find yourself tied to their needs, and all of a sudden you find yourself serving them all the time. So in my case, in my life, in my family, being grateful was not taught to us, to me. Us kids, weren't taught about being grateful, because all we saw was me. And that's unfortunate for my brothers and sisters, because I think that their lives would be so much better if they got into that train of thought, or that custom of being grateful. Now, I'm not saying that I'm such a great example, but that's what I'm trying to tell you, that I was realizing while I was writing that, wait a second, it almost seems foreign to me. Of course I am grateful for everything that our Father gives me, but that was the realization that it's like, yeah, nobody taught you this. You learned this on your own. So yeah, because see, when I was the moment I was able to start making money, it was so I wouldn't have to ask my parents, because they were always so scared about the future, so if you ask them for something, like, what? They would blow a fuse, because, I know now that they felt scared about, well, I'm not going to be able to supply this kid for what he wants, so, they would blow up in a big dramatic outburst. That is just like a defense mechanism, like, now what? That's basically that was their response. So I started to make, try to make money, very young, 8 years old or 10. I was already, going out there and, asking people, do you want me to throw away your garbage, or you want me to, just offer to do things, so they could pay me a little something. Once I was able to, once we came to the United States and my father got hurt, his back. It was almost like he planned it, because it's like we had just arrived, and a couple of days later, there he was, trying to crawl out of bed because he couldn't stand up straight. But it could also be that the fact that he was also so afraid of the future. It's like, now I got my whole family here in the United States. Now what am I gonna do to support them? And boom, he breaks his back. And so the concept of picking up cans, aluminum cans, to make some money, that's where it started, because it's like we were too young. I was 14, my brother was 12 or 13, and we were too young basically to get an official job, and also illegal, so we started to collect cans. And sure enough, it was my father and I and us two, my brother and I, that went out hunting for cans, but essentially we had to do the hard work because my father couldn't do it. And in the end, he would keep the money, and gave us maybe a couple of bucks, but essentially because we had free lunches, he didn't have to do any of that. So me in high school, my brother in junior high, and until the time when I decided, I want more money, so I started doing loans for people. I went to the guidance center in my high school, and because they posted jobs, and there was a lady who needed her lawn done. So I applied, and sure enough, I went to work for this beautiful couple. They were really nice people, and they gave me a $40, to do their lawn and help with whatever needs they had. They were on the older side, so later on the couple across the street also wanted one of my services, right? So I started to pick up some business. And then I got tired of that, so I just kind of handed that job to my brother, and my mom ended up doing it as well. And I ended up getting a job at a restaurant, and now I'm collecting a paycheck. That's what I wanted. I wanted an official paycheck. I didn't just want to get, paid cash, for a couple of hours. I wanted something steady, While I was going to high school, I decided, I'm gonna get a steady job, So I got a job after school in a restaurant, and now I was collecting a paycheck. And sure enough, my dad was like, gimme. So I had to hand all my money to my father, and again, it was like, gimme. He was in such a desperate need of it, and it wasn't like he was desperate, like, oh, poor guy, let's give him the money. No, it was more like, gimme the money. That was the plan. That he had it in his mind, that because my brother and I were growing older and, becoming strong young men, that now we could take care of him. That's the mentality that my father has. It's, oh, you're old enough now, you can help me. No, it was more like supporting him. So that's the kind of father I know that a lot of you might be thinking, you just keep always putting your parents down. It's like, no, you don't understand. Not all parents are built the same way. Some of them are sons of bitches. They just want to take advantage of, they abuse their children. And I had one of those. So with him, it was nothing about, he was never grateful. And that passed on to my brother, and I don't know about my sisters, but my brother is just the same way. I'm grateful as hell. And you could do something nice for those two, and they would actually reproach the fact that it wasn't enough. It's just too little. I need more. Or the fact that, well, I'm family, you have to help me. Like, it's your duty to help me. So the words thank you never came out of their mouths, and if it was just really just as a surface thing. It was never meant. So see, in my family, that wasn't a thing, So as I'm running through my list of being grateful, I started to have that realization. It's like, well, it's no wonder, you sometimes you can only expect the worst, because look who raised you. And I mean, these are the things that they taught me, to fear the future, especially when it comes to money, especially with meeting deadlines and paying bills and things like that. And it was this thing just kept getting re-emphasized. And like I mentioned before, it's all about familial patterns, and that's what we're all dealing with. In fact, the reason why our lives can get so hard, so difficult, is because of that stuff that is stuck in our noggin, is stuck in our cells. These messages that keep telling us that we're not good enough, or that we're not going to be strong enough or smart enough or talented enough to meet the future. That's what's been happening with me, and I ran into so many problems because, again, we have the power of God within us. Power of the kingdom of heaven is within us. It's all in the Our Father prayer, by the way. It's in us, and out of our will, anything can manifest here on earth as it is in heaven. So it is quite the thing when you have such mentality, such negative mentality, that all negative things happen. So you can't get grateful while all these negative things are happening. You have to actually pull yourself out of it, detach yourself from all of that, so you can, start thinking more positively. And that's why you write your grateful, or your gratefulness list. So as I'm writing these things, obviously I start feeling how my mood starts to elevate, my vibration starts to rise, and that's when I link up with divine intelligence, and then I get these ideas, like I didn't come up with this, this was delivered to me, while I was, big enough or humble enough to say, I need help, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say I'm very grateful until it hits me, until it clicks, and then maybe you can give me an answer. It's basically just, you have to put yourself in that state. It's not going to come to you because, you're demanding it, or you're crying about it, or you get really desperate about it. I'm thinking that sometimes, when we get that desperate, your angels are like, okay, well, you're not necessarily asking, but we're still going to help you anyway, so, but it is something that you link up to, because you decided, I'm going to be humble enough to link up, and I'm going to put myself through this process so I can get that link up. And once you do, like I said, once I did, I started to see a lot of things clear. The fact that, us human beings, we're all talented. We're all full of grace. And see, that's the thing in Spanish. Gracias is thank you. Gracias. Muchas gracias. That means grace. Graces. Much graces. Muchas gracias. Much graces fall upon you for helping me. Much graces fall upon me. You know what I mean? That is, it's a way to recognize that you have grace within you, and that grace is raining upon you. That's being grateful. And then whenever we decide to choose fear, or choose, our circumstances as the only thing, we are negating that grace. We're negating God itself, because we're doubting that God could help in this, because look at these circumstances. This is why I always tell you that in the neighborhood that I live in, it's all about survival, and nobody is nice. Nobody is grateful about anything, because everybody's only thinking survival. I gotta get there before they do, or I gotta get theirs because I like it, and I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough to get one on my own, and so on and so forth. So that's why people do all these negative stuff, because they don't know. I mean, I always hear Jesus saying, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they do. And that's the reason why that a lot of the problems that we have in the world about poverty and anything really could be solved just by us being taught how to recognize grace, the grace that we have within us. The kingdom of heaven is within us, and we can make or unmake our own lives with it. That's why I said in my last video, or a couple of videos ago, that you are powerful, because, we end up infecting the now, which is all that is. Now is all that is. The past is dead. The future is not even born, so they don't necessarily exist, because when the future comes, it becomes the now. You see, so then we grab things, all the garbage from the past, and we infect the now, so then we see it in the future, because again, all our circumstances are basically the byproduct of the thoughts that we had before. And where did we dig in from? From the past. So it's quite a slippery road, because it's this loop that you end up in. It's like a hamster wheel, that you just keep reactivating, and in essence we have to put the brakes on and say, okay, no, look what I made a mess out of my life. I have this power. Look, it's manifesting. I can see that everything that I thought, everything that I felt, everything that I visualized is here now, because I grabbed that stuff from the past, brought it to my now, infected the now, and now that is this future that I put all those ideas in the future, and now it's here in the now. Again, the now is all that is. So as long as you're making yourself happy, as long as you decide, I'm going to link up with divine intelligence now, well, it's only going to be good news for the future, right? And you also saying bye to the past. You're saying, no, past, I've had enough of you. And just to reemphasize that concept is that I went to my old neighborhood, and I never wanted to go there because I thought it would bring me pain, bring me, memories, painful memories about my family and our struggles and things like that. But as soon as I walked into that block, I got the smells. I was like, oh my God. And it just triggered this happiness, because it reminded me of how starry-eyed I was when I first arrived in the United States. And the neighborhood is almost the same, but it has changed. And I walked by this store that I used to go to all the time, the first store in the United States that I ever visited, I think. And because we always went there regularly, and it's no longer there. And I was like, oh, that's sad. It made me sad because it wasn't there. That was a staple of the neighborhood. And it's no longer there. And I stretched my sight to see inside. I was across the street. And I could see through the door. The door was open, and all I could see was debris and some advertisements, that was still hanging. But I was like, how sad. But then I started thinking, if my past can change, then that means I can change. That means that whatever we can do now eventually changes the past. Because now that I went back to see my past, it has changed. I knew where it was. I knew what I went through, what I learned, whatever disappointments I had, or, advantages or great experiences. But it did change. So if the past can change, the now can change too, which in turn will change the future. It's all about just taking the reins of your life and focusing in the fact that the graces that you should be grateful for are everywhere. I mean, you are alive right now, you're breathing, you're able to use your sight and your hearing. Those are graces. Those are the graces that God, endowed us with. And not only that, check out your talents. Me as a writer, I mean, it's like if I say, I could be so ungrateful, be like, I need a break, something, and then all of a sudden, boom, God hands me a pen or a pencil. I'd be like, well, I was expecting $100,000 bill, a $100,000, paycheck or something, you give me a pencil. See, being ungrateful and not understanding that that grace of being able to write could actually feed me, could actually uplift me physically, emotionally, economically, and spiritually. Just that simple little pen or pencil, the ability to be able to write, the ability to be able to sing, speak, and so many other ones that I don't get grateful about because I wasn't taught to acknowledge these things. You know what I mean? So you out there, start looking at your life, in that respect, that you have grace all upon you and all inside you. And if you acknowledge it now, your future is going to be that much awesome. Take it easy, lemon squeezy.